You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. Some people just don't know how to fish, and those who don't can't go fishing at all. That's a huge disrespect to the fish. But my father was the master of learning through fun. As long as we finish our chores, we can enjoy our free time. So my brother stepped out proudly with his fishing gear. He sprinted across the prairie, almost forgetting to wait for his little sidekick brother. Arriving at the riverbank, he gracefully cast his line, following the rhythmic 4-beat fishing technique Dad taught him. Little brother wasn't having any of it. He went about it his own way with the new twist. Every now and then they'd sneak into town for a bit of mischief. They'd hop on free carriages and sneakily pull down drunkards' pants. Back then, Paul was just a kid, but had an adventurous streak in him from the start. When Paul saw the dancer in the stairwell, she twirled like the wind, leaving him mesmerized, until his brother pulled him back to reality. From a young age, the kids knew this wasn't a gentle world, but they loved it just the same, as Norman wrestled with his namesakes in carefree fun. She felt tough for having been in fights, but Paul was different. His toughness came from a certain mysterious place inside him. "Honey, finish your bowl of cereal, or you'll just have to sit there," Dad said sternly, only for her to turn it into a lesson, sitting there until lunchtime. Paul held his position, and when it came time for dinner, her determination had Dad at a loss. Little brother asked his big bro, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Norman said he wanted to be a pastor or a boxer, to which his brother shot back a question. Paul chirruped, "I want to be a silver-flying fisherman." Unfortunately, that job doesn't even cast a shadow, and Paul ended up looking ridiculous too. He wanted to be a boxer too. By 1917, during World War I, the town was left with just the elderly and kids. So, at 16, Norman started working for the Forest Service. Earning a living was no cakewalk, especially since Paul was still just a kid. He worked as a lifeguard at the town's pool, watching over the girls by day and sneaking off to fish at night. It became his way of life. One night, the two brothers sneaked out, since Big Bro was dreaming of being a pastor, and his friends called him that too. A few friends were out drinking and chatting when Paul had a brilliant idea. "Let's take a little boat and brave the rapids of the big river for some thrills." So they drove with the boat on top of the car, arriving at the riverbank. But once there, the others were spooked by the raging waters. Except for Paul, no one else dared to get on the boat, so 3 of them backed away in fear. Norman was actually nervous too, but he stayed for his brother. So they bravely waved goodbye to their friends, thinking if something went wrong, they'd probably be in the papers the next day. As they approached the rapids, Paul was as excited as a kid, while Norman calmly directed. Their friends watched anxiously. They zipped through one rapid after another, charging toward the waterfall. The thrill was everything, while their friends sprinted back down the hill. The brothers' figures faded into the distance, leaving behind a shattered boat. Their friends were in a panic, dashing toward the wreck. Just then, Paul jumped out, pushing a friend into the river, and leaped in right after him. Paul was all thrill, while Norman was already terrified. Back home, Dad gave the brothers a stern talking to. Once the folks found out they'd been cracking, Mom didn't sleep or wink all night. Paul stepped up to admit it was all his brilliant idea. Norman went to the kitchen for some bread, still shaken inside, while Paul was writing his high, thinking he should write a piece about it. "McLean brothers conquer the rapids," he declared, as Paul joked to his brother, "You better picture me as the rebellious one with a can of sardines." So, the 2 brothers started throwing punches, each trying to land more blows until Mom rushed in to break it up. "I'm not your deadbeat, begging you, I'm dying here." That was their first and only fight due to pride, after which their debate only grew. The babbling river on a peaceful afternoon became the most unforgettable moment between a father and son. Fishing together, the brother caught a big one, while Paul defied Dad's teachings and created his own rhythm on the line. The little brother wanted to outdo his big bro, and this time he snagged an even bigger fish. Then Dad glanced over and proudly showcased his catch, one even bigger than Paul's, before strutting off. Norman got accepted into Dartmouth College, finally waving goodbye to his hometown and Montana. Just before the train pulled out, his brother jumped on board. Little brother puffed behind him, saying goodbye. Norman's eyes were opened wide as he stepped into unfamiliar territory, making a ton of new friends. His college years stretched a hefty 6 years, hardly making it back home, while Paul attended college in their hometown, reluctant to leave. His heart was forever tethered to the big Blackfoot River back home. After graduation, he took up a reporter job at a newspaper. In 1926, Norman finally returned home. By then, his parents were well settled, and the whole village knew about Norman's achievements at Dartmouth. Dad wanted to know his plans ahead. Norman replied, "I applied for a teaching position, but I want to work in the Forest Service this summer." Norman was just like his father. He followed in his father's footsteps. Norman headed over to where Paul worked, finding him utterly confident, gearing up for an expose on the mine scandals. When Paul spotted his brother, his joy was off the charts. The two brothers rushed straight to their home river. At the riverbank, Norman was filled with nostalgia, recalling the long-missed beauty of home as he cast his fishing rod. But he quickly realized he was a bit rusty. He readjusted and remembered Dad's steady rhythm for fishing, his line arcing gracefully across the lake. Paul's fishing skills had transformed. He had come up with a new trick, the shadow cast, letting his line dangle enticingly, suspended in the water's surface to lure the fish closer. Paul had become a fishing artist at this point. A friend introduced Norman to a dance party, where the girls had grown up and no longer needed Mom around. Norman caught sight of one of the dancing girls and promptly vanished into the crowd. When it came to chasing girls, the brothers were on the ball, though the girl didn't know him at all. They hit it off immediately. They shared a drink, but just as they were about to dance, she was whisked away by a friend, reluctantly departing. Then came the fireworks display, and Norman wanted to make a call, but Mom was gabbing endlessly with someone else, oblivious to how many times he came down to remind her. Finally, she hung up and passed the phone to Norman, who took a deep breath in the corner. "Is Jessie there?" "Oh, this is Norman McLean, but I'm not sure she'd know. I just brought you some drink." And thus, Norman asked Jessie out, having an unexpectedly romantic night, only to bump into Paul outside the bar.